My miscarriage was called a miscarriage, where I had no signs of it. I went in for my 12-week ultrasound. Baby didn't have a heartbeat, but that was really enough time for me to see what I was doing was working. And obviously it didn't end the way that we wanted it to, but then it also still opened my eyes to so much more of just gaps in fertility care. There has to be more that I can do to set my body up for a healthy pregnancy. And if I wouldn't have been going through that, I would have never seen that. And I wouldn't have felt so passionately about there needing to be a better support system in the fertility space.
Here is something you need to hear. You're not lazy. You're just misaligned. I'm Kepo. I help high performers get unstuck by taking bold, aligned action. And this is Grow With Kepo, where we speak with influential trailblazers who've made their mark and found the clarity that changed their lives. This is where we get clear, realign, and move toward a life that actually feels like yours. Welcome to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this episode or to this show. And today I have a really exciting guest for you all. She's Olivia Westley. She's a functional health practitioner, but I'll let her introduce herself. Olivia is amazing. Why? Because she was you before, right? She had a 9 to 5 and she wasn't fulfilled in it. And fast forward to today, she is running a thriving business and she is a badass. And I cannot wait for us to hear her story, how she got here, all the fears that she conquered, and all of that. Let's get into it. Hello, Olivia. Welcome to the show.
Hello, I'm so excited. Okay, so like you said, I'm a functional health practitioner. So what I do is I help women with hormones and fertility through nutrition, lifestyle. I like to call it therapeutic practices because we're going a lot more in depth than just just live a healthier lifestyle. We're being much more intentional with what we're doing on a day-to-day basis to really have that healing piece of hormones and helping women get pregnant naturally, which I got into after my own fertility journey, struggling with PCOS, struggling with miscarriages, and just seeing an overall lack of support. But like you said, I also worked a 9 to 5 job before this. I actually went to school for mechanical engineering. So that's what I did before this, and was doing both for the time being. And then when my son was born is when I kind of took the leap to do this full time.
Wow. Okay, mechanical engineering. I don't think I knew that
I
about you
don't think you did
before
either.
this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I studied electrical engineering.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness, good for you. Electrical engineering is a lot. Those were my hardest classes for sure. I think I had to take 2 electrical engineering classes. They were awful.
Yeah, yeah, PTSD from those days. But somehow I got through it. That is amazing though, mechanical engineering. So this is so awesome because a lot of people listening to this, they might just feel like they're stuck in this hole, like, oh, I'm in the STEM field, I'm in accounting or whatever. And look at how different the work you're doing now is. Like, you help women get pregnant. Like, can we just, how did you do the switcheroo? What job did you have? Like, what was the nature of your 9 to 5 job? Were you working as an engineer? Like, tell us about that journey.
Yeah. And it always catches people off guard when I tell them what I used to do to what I do now. And there's no connection there. And it actually the overlap of the skill set is actually more than you would think. What I did on a day-to-day basis, for my job. So I went to school for mechanical engineering. I had a minor in biomedical engineering. So what I wanted to do theoretically was design prosthetics, medical equipment. I thought that sounded really cool. When I got to graduation, I'm like, oh, I need to go back to school if I actually want to do this. And I do not want to go back to school right now. I'm done. So I started out at a job in a manufacturing plant that literally printed the plastic labels to Gatorade. Not just Gatorade, but things like Gatorade yogurts. They did the printing of that. I was in a manufacturing plant, typical engineering job. And that's when I realized oh shit, I think I chose the wrong field. I absolutely hate this. I hate every single bit of it. It was the semester before I graduated, my last semester of college is when I started posting on social media, and I was seeing that okay, I see other people making a living doing this. So I'm like doing this at the same time. And like I already knew at that point, I'm like, I do not want to do this forever. I want to make a living doing something. At the time I was working for a supplement company, like doing just thinking I was gonna make it big selling supplements.
Wait, so when you said you saw people doing this online, making a kill, what do you mean by this?
Just online, like seeing people that were doing fitness coaching, health coaching, selling supplements, and making a really good living doing it. And at the time, I'm hating my corporate job. I'm like, okay, I know that I don't want to do my corporate job anymore. I ended up only being there for about 4 months. I worked for a government, like city doing GIS work. So like the online mapping system of mapping out like underground water lines, underground power lines. So my title was GIS engineer. I didn't do a lot of actual engineering work. That was a much better place for me, but still just a lot of like dreading Monday morning. And once Monday morning hits, like you're looking forward to Friday. And like I just want it to be the weekend and not actually enjoying what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. Like looking back, I'm like, I didn't really realize how unfulfilled I was until now. Like I actually wake up excited for Monday morning and like look forward to my work days. And like the black and white difference is pretty wild.
That's amazing. I mean, first of all, the fact that you lasted there 4 months is actually it's actually a credit to you because people stay way too long in jobs that they are miserable in because of the stories that they tell themselves. And I want you to explain to us, like, in even more detail, what it really felt like when you were so miserable. Like, what was your day to day, your week to week? What did your weekends feel like?
And this is a kind of a different note to start out with, but when you mentioned like the STEM fields, and like I do feel like that's a big piece of it, where it's like I had a lot of pride for what I did and like going to school for engineering, where it's like having these thoughts of like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to kind of give up on everything. Like, I feel like that is a really big obstacle. And like a lot of what was going through my head at the time of like, especially I think the way that people perceive it, where it's like people still reference like what I do now of like, oh, your little Instagram thing. Just like seeing that where it's like I had this big like corporate job, this like engineering job that people really praised, and like having this idea of like going to do something on the internet, I feel like is a really hard thing to like think through at the time. But on a day-to-day basis, like I said, I had the two different jobs. The one I was at for 4 months was absolutely awful. um just the environment, I was from the standpoint of like I was in a manufacturing plant. We didn't see sunlight. It was just like loud machines all day, the chemical smell, like the people I worked with were just not very good people, where it was just that experience was just really not good. I honestly, like, I feel like I don't remember a lot of it. Like, it was a lot of just like going through the emotions, calling my parents in tears if I want to quit. They're like, you can't quit. You are an adult now. You need health insurance. We love you. We support you, but you can't quit your job until you have a backup plan. And then my second job, I had actually interned there, and I had turned down a full-time position, and I called them in tears. I'm like, have you filled my position yet? I really want this job. I need to be doing something different. They're like, we actually just posted the job, so you need to apply. So that was at about that 4 month mark that I ended up getting my internship job. That was now a full-time job back. And I was there for 4 years. And that was definitely a better experience where like I enjoyed the people I worked with. It was a very just like laid back job. But I think that was just like, especially at the time, it was fine. It was more so like just like going through the emotions, whereas like it wasn't very fulfilling. It was an okay job. I knew that it was like paying me decent. I knew that I knew I always had a check coming in, like those pieces of it were good. It was pretty easy. But now I like do something that I really love. So like I think it's more now looking back on it, I see just like, wow, like that was not a way to live life, where it was like it was just kind of going through the motions on a day-to-day basis, scrolling on my phone, just killing time and checking off the boxes versus like actually being excited to like grow as a person and like grow with my skill sets and just push myself a little bit more.
Wow. You are hitting on so many important things. But very quickly, the last one that you said, which is, you said it was easy, right? You were getting the paycheck, all of these things, you knew it will come in, but it wasn't easy.
You're right.
It wasn't easy. It actually was hard.
For sure, 100%.
That's a wake up call that a lot of people need. And that's why I love your story, right? Because now that you are here now, you've done hard things to get here, no doubt. But can we just even pause here and talk about how the differences in the types of hard,
Yeah,
now that
no,
you're on
for
the other
sure. That's
side?
such a great way to put it, for sure, where it's like the actual like things I had to do at the job were easy. The expectations were it was weird circumstances with management where expectations of my job were very, very low. So like logically it was easy, but you're right, that piece of it also made it hard because there was no like looking back, I'm like, if I would have lived my the rest of my life like that of just like quite literally going through the motions and like not really being pushed, not really there was no way to like grow as like there was no way for me to like go into like different roles. Like I was the highest that I could be. There was no opportunity to earn more, to like there was no reason for me to continue to grow as a person because there was no growth opportunity in that position. And like that piece of it made my entire life hard because it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Where I was so stagnant at my job, or it's like my husband even says like he was like it was affecting everything that you did, where it was just like it was just so like bleh for everything in life because that's how my day to day was.
You know something, as you were talking, I just thought someone listening to this would think, well, yeah, that's your story. In my job, I actually feel challenged. There are paths for promotion. I've recently been promoted, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. I get a bonus. But so let me ask you this, assuming you had all of those things in your job compared to what you have now and what you're doing now, can you compare, like, maybe how
Yeah,
you
no,
would have
for sure.
felt,
Because I
even
think
though
it's
you didn't have that? Like, just
yeah, I think that's valid too, where it's like I do think that part of my circumstances is different than a lot of people, where it's like not some other people do have that more that growth opportunity. But I work in the same town. Well, my kids go to daycare in the same town that I used to work. So I drive by my old office every single day. And it's like every single time it makes me think of just like the piece you're bringing forward of like I didn't hate what I did. I really liked the people I worked with. Like it was fine. It was a good job. But it was like I get so like the days that like my childcare falls through or like my kids are sick or something where it's like I feel very grateful that I have that flexibility and like that's a whole different thing we could talk about of just like that difference in the things that I do. 'Cause that was a big reason why I left my corporate job is to have the flexibility for my kids. But it's more so like I get sad when I don't get to go to work, where it's like if I do have to stay home with my kids or get to stay home with my kids, there I get really sad because like I look forward to so much to be able to go to work and to build something for myself and just like I love what I do so much and I see the bigger vision for like what I'm building where it's like every day I don't get to do that, it like makes me sad because it's like I want to go 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 and keep building it. Where it's like that is a big difference for sure, where it's like it was the kind of the checking off the boxes, doing what somebody else needs you to do, just doing what you have to do versus like building something and building something that's even bigger than you, which I feel like you can relate to a lot.
yep, totally. Because I call it golden handcuffs, right? It sounds great on paper, and your head gets big about this 5% bonus, and then when you now fast forward to maybe your life now and how much you have made in your business so far, and what the potential is, what you're making now, it's like, really? You're getting happy about your tiny weeny, 40% taxed 5% bonus. Like, that is what is making you happy? And that leads me to the next something that you mentioned earlier, which is, you had this engineering job. It's what people put some kind of importance on, right? And then there's like this little Instagram thing. And that right there, that mentality right there is killing a lot of people, is keeping them stuck because their ego is getting in the way. They think that, oh, there's this, engineering, I'm a lawyer, I'm this. It's like, no, that's no, but you're not fulfilled though. you know?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think that it is an ego thing where it's like I if I think about like the reaction that people get, like if I have like what I used to do when I would like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm an engineer. Like, oh, cool. But then now when I tell people what I do and they don't, I mean, it's just like in passing in conversation and I tell them, they're like, oh, cool. And like, it's not the same reaction where it's like you do have to check your ego, or it's like, I don't need them to understand and need them to approve of what I do. And even like, I think that was a big, I mean, it still is, but I feel like I'm in a much better place where it's like, I care what my family thinks, but they don't have to fully understand it for them to be able to support me. And like, because my parents will always support me. They're fantastic. And even just like through this transition, they have supported me, even just like financially here and there when I've needed it. Very little, but it's been nice. Like they're there for me, but they also like, if they would have had it their way, I would not have left my job, where it's like there was definitely that little bit of disappointment factor. And that was really hard for me. Cause like obviously you want to make your family proud, right?
Yeah, yeah. And no matter how old we get, I don't care what anybody says. Like when it comes to our most loved ones, deep down we want to be accepted by them as we are, or for whatever we're doing. There's just that thing, and I think it's fine. It's not a bad thing, right? And that leads me to my next question about when you're doing this type of thing, when you're stepping outside of the grain, that your entire support system acknowledges that, okay, this is the way to do life, and you want to step outside of that, you need support, right? So how did you navigate that? I know you said that your parents supported you. Who else was there for you? Because nobody's self-made, right? What kinds of support system, whether it's family, friends, community, whatever it is, like share that with us.
Yeah, I'd say mostly my husband. He's been my biggest supporter for sure. 4 years of me, for a while, it was like affiliate marketing with a supplement company. I look back at like eh, very cringe. I definitely had to embarrass myself a little bit, but I look back, I'm like, thank goodness. Like, I'm so grateful for that old version of me that just did it anyways. And I made a fool of myself, but that's the reason why I'm here now. Like, I learned so much. And I mean, it was just kind of me and him. And again, my parents have always supported me. They've always been there. They haven't ever fully understood. I feel like they're just now starting to fully understand that like how good I am at what I do, and like there is something bigger here after 5 years. But my husband's really been the only one that's like from the beginning. He has, I don't know if he's fully like it's I don't think either of us really saw exactly what I wanted, because for a while it was like, oh, I'm gonna make a lot of money selling supplements, and like for then it turned into like, oh, I want to be a fitness and health coach. And then it has transformed into like what it is now, which is now obviously more that like functional health, hormones, fertility thing, where he's always seen how badly that I wanted something different than just a 9 to 5 job, and stood by me through all of it. So I'd say he's definitely like the biggest one for sure. And like I said, my parents have always been supportive from the standpoint of like they love me and they'll always support me, but they haven't fully understood it until about now.
Let's walk through your journey of the different things that you tried, please. So, what walk us through what was going through your mind when you first decided to try. I think the first thing you tried was the supplements, right? Selling supplements online.
Yeah.
What were you
Yes.
thinking? Like, what inspired you? Was it, oh, I'm good at this, or oh, people are just doing this? Just walk us through that.
The supplement company I worked with was First Form, and I still think very highly of them. I don't think I was gonna ever make it big selling supplements. But I do think really highly of them as a company. I struggled with my weight a lot of my life, and not like ever extremely, but enough where it's like I always felt very poorly about myself and about just like the way that I looked. And I think a lot of it was just like even how I like looking back now, like knowing what I know now about like confidence and just what it actually means to be confident, whereas like a lot of like it was just like, me not showing up for myself, me not taking care of myself was why I felt poorly about myself. And it was me following somebody that was into fitness, really liking her page, really looking up to her, and she was affiliated with this company. And like I saw like how involved she was with this company. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And they have a really big community aspect. And I really bought into that community piece of it. I'm like, I really want to be involved with this company. And like thinking it was going to be like years down the road. And just on a whim, I'm like, I'm going to send in an application. Don't think there's any way I'll get accepted, but I'm going to send in an application. And I ended up getting accepted. It was a much easier process than I ever expected it to be. And even they have like, I don't know how familiar you are with First Form, but they have their yearly Summer Smash. And I remember pretty distinctly like seeing them having Summer Smash and be like, one day I'm going to go there, one day. And I ended up going the next summer, which like looking back at that time, I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, it definitely wasn't as hard to get there as I like thought it was going to be, but like I was going for it. Like I was putting myself out there. I was posting on social media. I was meeting new people, which was like I was a very shy, reserved person where it's like that I was making a lot of big moves for where I was at, and like I definitely I'm thankful for that version of myself that continued to just go for it. So that was what kind of got me into it. They're a fantastic company where I learned so much, where they had so many like educational resources, whereas like a lot of even what I've learned for like about functional health and like eating healthy and like the nutrition, the workout, like all of those pieces, I learned so much from them. Where it's like I just gradually finally realized, and like, okay, I don't think I don't think the commission from supplements is like, I don't think logically that's going to help me make a lot of money. And two, like it wasn't feeling aligned anymore of like supplements are a tool in our toolbox, but like having to make a living off of recommending supplements just wasn't feeling aligned anymore. So that's when I started to dig more into like, okay, how can I build something for myself and like actually help make money off of helping people versus the supplements piece of it? Because that's kind of their business model is you help people for free, sell them supplements, and that's how you make money. Genius on their end. But it was just kind of that realization of like, I need to structure this a little bit differently if I actually want to realistically make a full-time income off of this. So that was kind of that transition period. And then that was around the same time I was going through my own fertility journey and seeing the lack of support of like I was kind of hearing bits and pieces of like healing your hormones naturally, improving your PCOS naturally. And I was kind of like dabbling in those kinds of things. I ended up being able to get pregnant and we had a miscarriage, and just kind of through that season and asking more questions of like, what can I do to be able to not be going through this? And so through that time period, my fitness coaching transitioned into more of this like functional health and diving into that piece of it.
Wow. First of all, you're so brave.
Oh, thanks.
You're so brave, and I commend you on that. Like, I've I've never been pregnant before, but I know people who have had miscarriages, and that is not funny at all.
No,
And
yeah, and I think it was for sure the hardest thing that I've ever been through. It was heartbreaking, and I never understood the weight of it. I think you kind of hear of every once in a while, like somebody having a miscarriage, and I was 23, 24. It just never really registered like how awful it is. And it was a thing where like we weren't trying to get pregnant at the time. I had seen a the timing of it is really just one of those things where I feel like I just truly feel like my whole journey was like happening for me, not to me, where like I was starting to ask questions about like my PCOS. Um I had been on birth control my whole life because that's all you can do for your PCOS is what I was told. And I was starting to ask more questions. Like, I want to come off of birth control. I've been on birth control since I've been 16 years old. Like I'm 20, 24, 23, 24, somewhere around there. I'm like, I take a lot better care of myself now. Like, what are my hormones doing now? And just like asking more questions and just hitting a lot of dead ends of like, there's nothing you can do for your PCOS. You need to stay on birth control until you're ready for kids. I'm like, there's just a big disconnect here. Like right off the bat, I'm like, there's just a big disconnect. I was doing a lot of research on my own end, reading the books, listening to podcasts. I was still working my corporate job. So I had it was an hour drive one way. So 2 hours in the car every day. I was listening to podcasts and just learning a lot. And I ended up seeing a fertility specialist because I was about a year out from getting married. And so I'm in this headspace of like, okay, I still want to do whatever I can to get pregnant and help with my PCOS. At this point, I never had a regular cycle in my life and very just like typical PCOS symptoms. And so I saw a fertility specialist and thinking she was going to give me more like, okay, this is what you're missing. These are other things you can be doing with nutrition, lifestyle to help with your PCOS. And she shut me down so fast of you will never get pregnant without fertility treatments because you're not ovulating. She laughed at me for thinking that nutrition lifestyle was going to help me with being able to get pregnant, and told me, you're wasting your time. Come back and see me when you're tired of trying on your own. Um, and I left in tears. I was very discouraged. I did have like another like practitioner, somebody that does very similar things to what I do, that was helping me here and there. And I texted her right away. I'm like, I feel so discouraged. She's like, I'm so sorry you had that experience. Like, I do think what we're doing is working. Like, you got to trust the process. 6 weeks later, I ended up randomly pregnant, which like the timing of it was like, wow. And then that was my pregnancy that ended up in a miscarriage. But then, like I said, it's one of those circumstances where I do feel like it's like happening for me, not to me, or it's like the timing of like, I felt so discouraged of this fertility specialist telling me I was wasting my time. Six
Yeah.
weeks later, not a lot of time, I randomly end up pregnant. My miscarriage was it's called a miscarriage, where I like had no signs of it. I went in for my 12-week ultrasound. Baby didn't have a heartbeat. But that was really enough time for me to like see what I was doing was working. And obviously it didn't end the way that we wanted it to, but then it also still opened my eyes to so much more of the just like gaps in fertility care, where it's like right after my miscarriage, I'm like, why did this happen? What can I do to make sure I have a healthy pregnancy moving forward? And immediately it was, and now I hear this all the time with my clients too. Like, this is very like typical feedback of like, miscarriages just happen, just take your prenatal, there's nothing more you need to be doing. And that just didn't sit right with me. I was like, there has to be more that I can do to set my body up for a healthy pregnancy. And if I wouldn't have been going through that, I would have never seen that. And I wouldn't have felt so passionately about there needing to be a better support system in the fertility space.
Hey, can I be real with you? Your next chapter isn't going to start itself. If you're in a job that drains you and you're tired of talking yourself out of your big ideas, it's time to move. In Raise Your Standards, my free 21-day challenge, I'll coach you step by step to get through fear, make clear decisions, and start building the work and life you actually want. Click the link in the description to join the next round or hop on the waitlist today. All right, now back to the conversation.
When we look at what drove you to sell first form supplements versus what drove you to now, build this redefined fertility business, it's so different, right?
Yeah.
One, you were driven by, okay, I really want to get out of this 9 to 5. And I see these people doing this. This sounds great. I think I can do this. And you jumped right in. And sometimes some people just need to jump right in. If you're listening to this, sometimes you just need to jump right in and try. You will not know unless you actually try. And I like how you said that you learned a lot from them, right? You learned it brought you out of your shell. You had to, put yourself out there a lot. But then when we go to this other one that you're talking about, you somehow turned your pain into your profits, right? You've turned the mess of PCOS, infertility, and blah, blah, blah into your message. And it's so different. And I love what you said about it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. So if you're listening to this, there are some things that are probably happening right now in your life, and you're having this victim mentality. If Olivia had that victim mentality, redefined fertility would not exist today. And that right there is the difference. Everything is happening for you. Even the first form supplement, there's a lot that you learned there. You mentioned earlier that the transferable skills from mechanical engineering to what you do now, there are actually some skills there. We'll touch on that too. But I just wanted to pause right there and just help the listeners just really connect the dots.
It feels so like there's a lot of pieces going on, but I feel like that also is like if I had to give one piece of advice to anybody, it's like just start. Like you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know what it's going to look like. Like the like when you're talking about like me starting to sell supplements versus like what Redefine Fertility was, like the common denominator there was that I this whole time I still knew that I did not want to be at a corporate job. I did not want to be having to show up at the office at 7 o'clock in the morning, having to clock every single hour, having to ask permission to be able to leave. I knew I didn't want that for the rest of my life, or that's the common denominator. I knew that I wanted to work for myself in some capacity. I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like. I had ideas of what I thought that was going to look like. And it's just once I finally got to the fertility space, that's when I finally felt like this is it. The whole time, like selling supplements, doing the fitness coaching, like I was still putting in just as much effort. It just never really felt aligned, if that makes sense. Where it's like I didn't love it like I love what I do now. I love the idea of having a business for myself, but like I said, and like you said, where it's like, if I wouldn't have gone through those, I still wouldn't have gotten to where I'm at now. Or it's like, you just have to move. You just have to start. Like, you will figure out the details and what it looks like long term, but you can't get there unless you start. If I would have never started selling supplements, I never would have had the skill set to be able to build Redefine Fertility, right?
If someone is listening to this, what Olivia just said, if that's all you take from today's episode, that is going to help you 10x your happiness, 10x the quality of your life. Just start. That's the only way you actually get there. I love that. Like, can we like slap that on a shirt or something? Just start. You don't have to know every single step. You just knew
For
that,
sure.
okay,
And like really when I was thinking about today and talking to you, like that was the biggest thing where it's like that is like the biggest thing that I'm thankful for and that made the biggest difference where it's like even with social media, like like if you're going to build a business for yourself, social media is probably going to be there in some capacity. Like that's something small. You like make the Instagram account. Make the Instagram account and just start posting and like I want to say it's not fun. I really love social media now, but from the standpoint of like figuring it out and like putting yourself out there, starting to post like that part of it, it's not really all that fun. So the sooner that you start, the sooner that you work through that uncomfy and you get better at it and it feels not so uncomfy where like those are such small things where it's like if you know that you want to build a business for yourself, like those are small things that you can do to just start.
absolutely. Just start, and the clarity you want will come with execution. And just like you too, when I tried different things in the past, I did not like social media. I To me it was just this necessary evil. And the more I did it, and of course the more I got the right kind of help and got the right kind of framework for it, the more I realized, oh my gosh, it's not a necessary evil. I What a time to be alive, right? What a time to be alive where we're in a space where all you have to do, well, it's not all you have to do. It's not like it's a walk in the park in the beginning, right? But the fact that everything is literally on your phone. You don't have to, invest so much. You literally just start posting. Social media accounts are free. And I was like, what am I complaining about? I literally pay zero to reach people.
It's like the coolest opportunity ever.
It is. And
And I
once we
feel like
came,
that's that conversation of like different types of hard again, where it's like the actual task of it isn't hard, but it's like getting out of your own head. And especially if like the ego thing, where it's like you have this corporate job, you have this thing, and you don't want other people to know that you have this other thing that you actually want to be doing. And like, I mean, I had to block family members on social media, not because they were doing anything wrong, but because of like it's getting out of your own head, where it's like that's the part of it that's really hard because it feels silly. It's people still refer to it as my little Instagram thing, and it's I had to just check my ego of like I don't really care that they think it's my little Instagram thing because this little Instagram thing is far more successful than I would have been at my corporate job. So like, whatever, I
exactly.
don't even care anymore. But I did care for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, you know what we say in our container, right? The one that you and I are in, talk about how we don't care about the opinions or feedback of people we would not trade places with, right? A lot of people are saying your little Instagram things like, okay, thank you, but you are still clocking to work. Are you happy? Do you have the flexibility to spend time with your children the way you want? Or if something comes up, can you, call the shots? No, you can't. So, okay, you go on with your little corporate thingy and your little W2s and T4s, and I will go with my little, but not so little profits, right?
Yep.
And I guess sometimes like you just have to be like, okay, well, and I love where you're at now, which is, well, I don't need your permission. I don't need your approval. I know why I'm doing this, right? I know why I'm doing this. And that's something that, people listening to this just need to understand. Like you understand why you are doing it. Put your blinders on and just start. All these people that have all these opinions, how have they helped you to progress in your life? I'll tell you, no way. They haven't helped you in any way. Some people are going nowhere and they want you to go with them,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, the only way they've helped is helped with building the resilience of that skill set to tune them out.
Yes, exactly,
But
exactly.
yeah, no, for sure, where it's just like you can't care what other people say.
No, you can't. So you mentioned earlier about how you have some transferable skills
Yeah.
from, mechanical engineering, being in STEM field, and even the first form supplement sales. Can you tell us some of those things that come to mind that now help you in your current business?
Yeah. Two things that come to mind primarily just between the two of them. One is like I am very introverted, very shy. Like when in my first form days, they would have you like hop on phone calls with people, like help them, just help them. And to do that, like hop on the phone with them, talk to them about where they're at with their fitness journey and with their health journey and help them. And I would literally have to have like a 30-minute pep talk with myself just to get on the call with one person.
How long
Where it
is
was
the
like,
call that you have to do the 30-minute
oh,
pep?
I mean, it was just like a 15-minute chit chat with somebody that like I didn't know, but I hated talking to people. I was especially like somebody I didn't know, having to just call them and like lead the conversation. Like that was horrifying for me. Um where like putting in the reps from that standpoint, or like I had a Facebook group, like going live in my Facebook group. My husband and I would be in Sunday mornings in our kitchen going live in our Facebook group, where it's like, I mean, we both were just like so nervous about it, of like those pep talks of like 15 minutes of just being so anxious and still doing it anyways, where it's like the reps of like, I would have never had the skill set to like help my people the way that I help my people now, where it's like now I just ran a live event and almost 200 people signed up, and I think it was like 30 people came live. And that was like a whoa moment for me, where it's like not that long ago I was having to have these 30-minute pep talks with myself just to get talk to one person on the phone, and now I'm leading a Zoom call with over 30 people, where it's like that's really freaking cool that I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone that much. And then coming back to the mechanical engineering. So obviously mechanical engineering is a lot of numbers, a lot of problem solving. Where I do a work with labs a lot with my clients, where that's a piece of it, where it's like a big piece of how I get my clients answers that they're not able to get from their doctors, as I like to think of it, as like looking at their fertility like a puzzle. And like even their labs, like your doctor will look at your labs very like black and white of like, oh, like this marker's out of range. Here's this medication or here's this supplement. And like very black and white of like, oh, nothing's out of range. You're perfectly healthy. Or this marker's out of range. You have high cholesterol. That's the end of the story. Versus when I'm looking at my clients' labs, I'm looking at it as the whole story, where like all of our systems in our body is very connected, where it's like if your liver enzymes are elevated, your cholesterol is elevated, where it's like piecing that together of like, this is what that puzzle is actually meaning. And then even taking labs out of it, where it's like I call it my fertility assessment, where I am asking about my clients day to day, like what they're eating, their habits. I'm asking them about their symptoms. Our symptoms are our body's like red flags. They're clues like, hey, pay attention to me, like I'm struggling. Think of our symptoms as that. And like your doctors don't ask about your symptoms. So it's like I have all of these conversations I'm having with my clients and these things I'm digging deeper into. And I like to think of like each of those pieces as just a piece of the puzzle, versus again that black and white approach is the typical approach to fertility, where it's like that's where I feel like my engineering brain really thrives, where it's like putting that problem solving piece of it and looking at the data and looking at being able to piece together the data of what that actually means about their fertility. And just like the critical thinking that comes with that, if that makes sense. Where it's like I just feel like that's where my parents I've always loved math. I've always loved numbers. And like that's why my parents kind of encouraged engineering. Like, oh, you'd be great with engineering because you're good at math. You're good at problem solving. And that's where it's like the field that I got pushed into wasn't necessarily the best for me, but the skill set that's still the skill set that I'm best with. It's just I'm applying it a lot differently now.
I love that. So let's go back to the what you said about the skills that you got from first form, right? It forced you to step outside of your comfort zone. It forced you to, just get comfortable with helping people. And sometimes the first thing that we try when we're trying to do stuff outside of our 9 to 5 might not even be the thing that we end up with, right? But is a stepping stone. Like it helps you to do something. And can we just pause and just commend you on how far you've come? Like first you were doing a 30-minute pep talk to help someone for 15 minutes. And now, you're doing lives with, 200 people signed up and maybe I don't know how tens of people just show up at a time and you're just doing it, you're flowing. But that's because you made that decision from the very beginning to just get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And then the second part is, the pieces of the puzzle, like, that critical thinking and all of that you got from mechanical engineering. And I love how what you said about it was you had the right skill set, just it was not in the right space that you were applying it. And that is something that some people just need to come to terms with. I think that, and tell me what your experience has been here. Did you have this feeling like, oh, I've worked so hard in this area, in this field. How can I now just leave all of that and now go to selling supplements or go to helping people with their fertility? Did you feel any type of like, oh, I need to bury this part of me, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, I think definitely, especially while I was doing like the supplements and the fitness coaching, I had that feeling a lot more. Once I had started the fertility and like my functional health, um, not as much, just because I felt so strongly about it. And this was kind of where like, so I was pregnant with my son. um, he was due in September. I left my job in August, right before he was born. And that was kind of a big where it's like I just knew I couldn't do both, and it felt like such an easy decision for me at that point because I had found something I love so much. And just even the conversations I was having like with my boss and with like management of like only taking X amount of time off with my baby. And I remember them having a conversation with me. He was due in October. He came a month early, but they had a conversation with me of like, you might not want to take your full 12 weeks of your FMLA because you're going into like cold and flu season. So like you want to, because I would have used up all my like sick leave and vacation time within that and taken a lot of it unpaid. They're like, so you won't have any sick leave left. Like what happens if your baby gets sick through the winter time and you don't have any time to take off with him? And that was like, that will always stand out to me of being like, this is exactly why I need to get out of here, because I cannot imagine having to like, I can't take time off with my baby because I don't have any sick leave left. Where it's like, that's probably the biggest thing that I love what I do. I love the business I'm creating. I love like it's so much bigger than a business to me. But like that is the biggest thing that I'm so grateful for, where like my kids can be sick and it's a couple messages to my clients of I'm so sorry. We will reschedule ASAP. Thank you for understanding, versus having to like stress about sick
I
leave.
mean, like the ridiculousness of it all, right? Who decided? Like, who? Obviously, I am convinced that it is men that have stay-at-home wives taking care of their babies that come up with these stupid rules 12 weeks of that's not even enough already. And then you have to start doing all this like mental gymnastics as if you already know the future. How do I know that I need only 10 sick days for the year?
It's
Like, do we
crazy.
plan to get sick? Nobody wants to get sick.
Right. No, it's yeah, and I worked for the government, so it was very much so like follow you had to follow the rules. There was no like taking an unpaid day because you don't have any time. Like it was very by the rule book. If you don't have PTO, you don't get time off. And so I guess that's where it's like there was a little bit of that where it's like I did work really hard for my engineering, but once I started actually working in the field, it was so clear to me that that is not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It just took me finding what I felt really passionate about, where it probably felt a little bit too easy. That's a part of my story was like, I look back and laugh now because I definitely went with the burn the ships mentality of we're going for it. It's now or never. And it was a very stressful couple of years because of that. Where it's like, would I recommend somebody else doing that? Maybe not, but I mean, it's what got me here. So
What would you change if you had to do it all over again? Like, assuming you knew that, okay, redefine fertility is what you want to do, right? How would you have burned the boats if you even did it at all?
yeah, I probably wouldn't change anything just because of the timeline, where it's like I knew I had a baby coming. I was already having a hard time juggling the two, and I knew I didn't want to do both, like try to have this side business and a full-time job and a baby. So I'm not going to do that. My time with my baby is so precious, and especially after having 3 miscarriages, like that time was so precious to me. And I knew I didn't want to juggle both. Like if I'm going to stay at my corporate job, that's just going to be what I do for the rest of my life. Like I'm not going to try to do both. Or it's going to wait till a different season when my kids are grown up and then I can revisit this, which is going to be 10 years down the road. So going back, I wouldn't do anything different because I was just on a timeline. And I was making like some months 5K, some months like 2 to 3 I was still kind of in the fitness coaching space. I was pregnant, very pregnant, fitness coaching and in my functional health certification, racing the clock on that. I was like timed up to be taking my exam like right before my son was due. My son ended up being born a month early, so I was taking this exam while I had a newborn strapped to me. I was racing the clock just in all sorts of things, trying to make as like enough money to justify quitting my job. And that's where my husband was really great, where like he saw that I was making some money. It definitely wasn't enough money to probably justify leaving my job. But he kind of knew where I was at with it, where he encouraged me to leave my job. And I'm really thankful that he did because yeah, I wouldn't do anything different besides, yeah, it was just kind of the way things had to be if this was going to be the outcome.
Yeah, you wouldn't do anything different besides even pressing in and leaning in even more. Like, you know
Yeah,
what?
maybe
This
leading in
is
a little bit more. I mean, done things differently in my business to make more money faster, to make it a little stressful. I mean, if I wouldn't have had that timeline, I would have loved to have a little bit more like in savings and more like recurring revenue and like those types of things lined up. So it wasn't as stressful of a transition. That just wasn't my circumstances. Like my timeline just didn't allow for that. But if I were to be giving someone advice on that piece of it, I definitely think that that's a better way to go about it because it's been a very stressful last couple of years for sure. My husband also quit his job around the same time. We both left our jobs to be self-employed the summer before our baby got here.
oof. That one has got to be tough. And what a brave husband that you have, and very understanding too, knowing that he also wanted to do that. Some
Yeah,
people
so he owns a construction company. I don't know if I've ever
okay.
mentioned that to you.
Yeah,
He
you
owns
did. You did. Well, I
yeah,
didn't know that he owned it, but you told me that he's in construction and
yeah,
it's
so he owns his
easy.
own construction company that he left his job he had been at for 8 years to start his own construction company the same summer that I left my job to start my own
Brave
business.
power couple, man. You know what stood out to me in what you just said, um, is the fact that there will never be a good time to start.
Yeah. No, for sure.
There will always be something. It was either you were doing that certification exam while you were heavily pregnant, or while you had a newborn. Like if we even zoomed into that timeline, right? It's either you started now while you did not have, a lot of savings or whatever, and you knew that was going to be hard, or you wait a few more years of being miserable and then, now you just be start. Imagine you're just starting now. Actually, let's pause right there. Imagine if you were just starting now.
Yeah.
It sounds like you wouldn't even go back. You'd be like, nope, I will still take the hard.
100%. And that's kind of coming back to that same conversation of the sooner you start, the better.
The better, man. If it's an Instagram account, if it's sending an email, whatever it is, just start.
And even just like the hard things, they get easier the sooner. I think we were just talking about that on a call where it's like the things that you're avoiding, the things that feel really hard, they get harder the longer that you put them off. The longer you think about starting the business, the longer that you debate leaving your job, the harder it's going to feel. Like you just have to do it.
Yep. I love it. I absolutely love this. Oh my gosh, this has been so good. How do you feel? How do you feel right now? Like what's next for Olivia at Redefine Fertility? What does the next big bold thing look for you? Because it's not
Oh,
just about, making 20K a month or something, right?
yeah. It's been really fun going down memory lane for sure. And it makes me really like, I think back to even just like when I left my job, when my husband left his job, I'm like, oh my, we were so stupid. We were so stupid, but I'm so glad we were stupid. And I'm thankful for just like taking the leaps. And I think that's, I don't know, it's fun to be talking about that. But as far as what's next, my big jump is starting to get a little bit more time back with my kids. Just in January, I was up until January, my son's 3. So he was up until he was about 2.5. I have been home with him full time and also had another baby. My mom would help me out here and there. My sister-in-law would help me out here and there. It would end up being like 2 to 3 days a week of work time, but very unpredictable, which was very, very hard because it's like, it's my mom. She's not a daycare where it's like she has her own life to live too. Where it's like that was really hard to have the time set aside to build a business when that was my childcare circumstances. So in January my kids started going to full-time childcare. And since then, I have spent significantly less time with them, which has been, I mean, fun to a certain extent. There's been part of it that I've really enjoyed because I just love my business that much, but I miss spending as much time with them. So I've been working really hard. I actually just was talking to Maddie the other day. I just sent her a message on Friday because I've been working really hard the past 2 years. I'm building like a scalable business model. I was really taught that like one-to-one, being really hands-on with clients, there's only one way to run a business. And 2 years ago, I found out I was pregnant with my second baby. I was doing sales calls and very just like my business needed me to be hands-on to be able to make money. And I came across a different business mentor who was talking about like balancing motherhood and business, scalable income. And it was about 2 years ago. I kind of burned my business to the ground and started rebuilding my offer suite. And I just sent a message to Maddie on Friday. I'm like, I feel like it was a year and a half of pretty much going back to zero income wise and kind of feeling like I screwed it all up because I lost so much momentum. Like I was kind of making good money, but like I said, I was very just like, it needed me to be hands-on all the time to continue to make money. And I kind of took this leap of faith of like, I can't run a business like this with my kids. So the past 2 years, I've been really building these systems and rebuilding my offer suite and rebuilding these things. And I just feel like it's starting to work. And like I'm having these systems set in place. I'm starting to have income hitting my bank account where it's like passive income, commission from different things where it's like I don't have to be able to be hands-on to be able to have this money continuing to hit my bank account, more scalable offer suite where it's like I can help more people and still make a decent amount of money, a good amount of money, where it's like I've worked really hard to get these systems in place and I'm finally feeling like I'm there or getting there. I'm starting to see this like the fruits to my labor. Is that the saying for that?
Yes.
So that's my big move is like really finalizing. I know we've talked about my curriculum and just like finalizing all of those things and kind of putting trust in that process a little bit and trying the whole like balance thing out where it's like I would love to have a couple more days off with my kids and just kind of put it into coast a little bit.
But Olivia, look at that though. Isn't that a gift? The fact that you even have the choice, like you can make that choice. Like, okay, you know what? I'm going to rearrange my business so that I have more time with my children. You cannot go tell your 9 to 5 boss.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it's easy when you're wrapped up in it to forget sometimes what a blessing it is, but there are a lot of times it's just like even there's like mornings where it's like I don't get my kids to daycare until 9 o'clock most of the mornings because we can just eat breakfast together and get out the door at 8 o'clock, 8:30 instead of if I was at my corporate job, we would be having to leave my house at 6. Whereas like even little things like that where it's like it's such a blessing. Like you don't get to do that
No, that is such a blessing. That is massive. And that is, to me, absolutely worth it all.
for sure.
Because what is life if we cannot spend it with the ones that we love the most, right? Yeah, even and even you now are coming up with that because you know you really love what you do. But then it's great that you have this awareness of, okay, I still want to spend time with my babies as they're growing, because before you know it,
Which I
they're
think yeah, which I think is gonna be its challenge in itself because I do love what I do so much. So when you ask like what my next big move is, like it does feel like a big move and kind of a challenge because I do love what I do. Where it's gonna be a bigger it's gonna be a battle for me too, where it's like kind of checking myself of like my kids won't be young forever and like getting my business to a place where it's like it's a big business. My movement is building for me. It's still working for me, but like it's okay if we aren't like foot on the gas pedal full force to take in some of these when
precious
my kids are
moments.
babies. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
So
love that. And well, what a life, right? It's like, oh, these are high quality problems. Like, oh,
right?
do I build, like, do I go ham on my business or do I carve out more time with my babies? Like,
Right?
I love it. I love it.
What a beautiful problem.
It's a beautiful problem. This is so beautiful. How do you show your stats and you can share it? Like how many women you've helped to get pregnant?
I think we're at 37 babies now.
Wow.
I know, it's so cool.
That's so amazing. Like, that is so
Yeah.
amazing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and it's something again, I'm not very good at celebrating myself. Or Maddie's had to check me a couple times where it's like in my head I'm like, but it's only 37. It's not 137. But it's like there's 37 babies here because of Redefine Fertility, which is wild.
that is wild. I mean, only 37. Can we cast our minds back to maybe how happy and how it changed your world when you had your first baby? That's one. Like, and then imagine like 37 babies. Come on. That's
Yeah.
30.
I
Oh,
actually my wedding that I was at this weekend, is for my best friend. She had referred her cousin to me. So the ring bearer in the wedding was a baby that was born because of Redefine Fertility. I'm like the whole weekend I'm just staring at him. I'm like, oh my God, that just melts my heart.
what
And
is
he
more
is just
fulfilling than
absolutely
that?
precious. But it was definitely a cool experience seeing him in person where it's like that's wild. Like he wouldn't be
That
here.
is wild.
Yeah.
That's just like, that's awesome, man. Olivia, tell us, anyone who is listening, for some reason, maybe they want to work with you. Just tell us, how do we reach you? What are the things that you offer? Now, you said you just, created your offer suite or rejigged it. So if somebody wants to work with you, how do they reach you?
Yeah, my Instagram is usually the best place to get a hold of me. I love Instagram because you can send voice notes. Um, versus like email. I feel like email is a little bit harder to connect with people and get to know people. And especially with a fertility journey, like I take a lot of pride in getting to know my clients and like looking at you as an individual and like your story versus you being another patient in and out of an office. Is really what I've built my business off of because I know what it feels like to be just another patient in and out of the office. So Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. Like I said, I did rebuild my offer suite where it's like I wasn't fully intentional. It was just being very like intentional about creating something for somebody like at every stage of their offer. So I do have an offer for really to meet you with where you're at on your fertility journey, where like maybe you are just kind of starting to research like how do I eat healthy? How do I actually, there's a lot of contradicting information on the internet of like diets, fertility supplements, where it's like breaking through the noise of like, this is actually what you need to do to improve your fertility naturally through your nutrition and lifestyle. I call that fueling your fertility is my program, and just kind of like how I reference it, because we are fueling your body to set your body up for a healthy pregnancy. That's kind of where we start. And then I have multiple options as far as like getting hands-on support, getting labs. I run like either just like a blood panel with clients, or like what's called functional labs, where we're running gut testing, toxin testing. And again, it kind of meeting you with where you're at, where some people don't need as in-depth support, in-depth digging. It just kind of depends on where you're at. So that's kind of like a gist of how I help my clients. And like I said, I have really built it to be like meeting you with where you're at on your fertility journey. So there's something for everybody.
I love it. And your Instagram handle is Redefine Fertility, right?
Yes, that is it.
Okay, we'll also put it in the link in the description as well. So this was really, really good.
Thanks so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. And I learned so much as well, as usual. Sometimes I say these things are just for me to learn and other people are just
Yeah.
listening in.
Yeah, and
But
it's
yeah,
so
this
fun,
was
like,
great.
hearing other people's stories, and it's just I feel like the kind of gist of it is, like, it's yeah, I feel like when you hear more people's stories, it really just kinda, like it's possible for you too, right? Like, if it's possible for me, it's possible for you too, but you do just have to go for it, because it's never gonna be easy.
I love it. I love it. What a way to end this. You're so awesome, Olivia, and I just commend you. You're going for it, and I love how at the same time you're not losing sight of what it is that is most important to you, right? Yes, you're passionate about your business, but you're like, oh, I don't want to miss these precious moments with my babies. And I see you in the fight. I see you doing it, showing up, even when you're tired, when you're not tired, like you're just doing it. And I just want to commend you for that. And I cannot wait to see, where you go with Redefine Fertility and what you do with it. So yeah,
Well,
congratulations.
I appreciate you
And
having me. This has been so much fun.
of course, keep it up, keep going. Your work is so important and is so precious and so special. Like
Well, thank
honestly.
you.
Yeah.
And like I said, I appreciate you having me on this. This was so much fun.
Yay! Thanks for tuning in to Grow with Kepo. If this episode sparked something for you, subscribe, share it with a friend, and keep growing.